Hey, everybody. My name is Chris Rivera, Director of Client Relations for Entigrity Offshore Staffing. And today we're speaking with Ryan Lazanis of FutureFirms.co, and he's based in Canada. And Ryan, how things been? Just saw you a couple of weeks ago, but nice
Yeah,
to
it's
catch
been
up.
good, Chris. Good to catch up with you, and thanks for having me on the show.
Yeah, for sure, for sure. So Ryan, let's kickstart this with, I mean, you have a great story, especially how it ties in, the experiences you saw with your family, and then what you wanted to do and your entrepreneurial spirit, and how you're helping the accounting community. I mean, I truly love it because I don't have an accounting background, but the drive and the passion, that's what I do have, so I can relate there. So could you tell us a little bit about that?
Sure. So a little bit of background on myself. I'm a CPA, born and raised here in Montreal, Canada. And I started my own accounting firm in 2013 called Zen Accounting. It was an online firm, one of the earlier online firms in North America. And it's kind of following my father's footsteps. He was an entrepreneur. He was a small business owner. And I knew I wanted to have a business of my own one day. So started my own firm. And one of the big themes of my firm was how I could make accounting easy and pain-free for not only small business owners, but also for those working in the firm. And I identified a lot of pain points as I started my accounting career working at a firm myself. And I had a lot of colleagues working in firms, and I didn't want that typical traditional model. So this might tie in a little bit later on in our conversation. But there was a lot of pain points that I eliminated from the get-go to just help make accounting easier for everybody involved. And I ended up growing the firm over a 5-year period. My firm was acquired by a large corporate services firm based out of Europe. 5 years after starting my firm from scratch, it was acquired. And now with Future Firm, Future Firm helps accountants provide content and coaching to help fast track a modern scalable firm they love. So I have a blog, podcast, newsletter, all with actionable content. And I have an online coaching membership called Future Firm Accelerate, which provides online courses, a fantastic community of several hundred modern entrepreneurial firm owners collaborating together on best practices, and coaching for myself whenever anybody gets stuck, basically. So that's what I'm up to at the moment.
Yeah, no, I love it. And it's very important what you do, right? And so that it's exciting to speak with you because accountants sometimes aren't, the best business owners. They just kind of open up a practice, fall into this whole business model, and off they go. And it's hard to build out strategies and build out game plans and figure out how to really execute this.
And you know what? I certainly understand that because I was one of those people that just opened up a firm and just fell into it. Now, I think I was a better business person than an accountant. I'm actually a terrible accountant. So out of necessity, I had to bring smarter CPAs on board very early on to get me out of the work because I was a hazard. So yeah, I definitely identify more with the entrepreneurial end of things, but I understand what firm owners go through is because there's no plan. You just fall into it and things happen and it snowballs into something down the road.
Yep. And then money starts coming in and it looks good and clients are happy, more business coming in, but still there's just no structure in place.
Exactly.
And so, I mean, we can talk about, subscription-based pricing. We could talk about how to build a team. We could talk about hierarchy. I mean, there's just many different aspects, but when it boils down to it, the key word is capacity, right? So however you go about in doing this, you got to have the capacity. So initially, when you're working with a firm, what are you noticing right away, and also what tends to be the attitude with the firm owner? Is there a lot of excitement? Is there a lot of hesitation? Or is there a lot of nervousness?
I think, yeah, I mean, it's something where we know what firm life looks like, and it's not what a lot of people aspire to. Generally speaking, there's a pervasive issue in the industry with overwork and poor work-life balance. And I recognize that very early on in my accounting career, when I started my firm, like, people start a business in the first place to improve their life, to give them more freedom. And I was very stubborn with certain things from the get-go. Like I said, I wanted to provide an easy, pain-free accounting experience, not just for clients, but for the team. And there was a number of pain points I identified, which might loop into a little bit of our discussion, which is, one of those pain points was people hate their timesheets. So why continue to force people do something that they hate? So right off the bat, when I started my firm, there's no timesheets. People hate their timesheets. I want to attract people to the firm. So there's no timesheets in the firm. But that opened up other issues, which led to other solutions. But, that's just an example of, there's a lot of things that people don't like about firm life, but we continue doing it. And there's some pervasive issues in the industry with overwork and poor work-life balance. And yeah, so that's kind of what I observed as an outsider before starting my own firm.
Now, one keyword, two keywords you just said was bad habits. And I noticed that too. For example, when I'm speaking with a client and they had an experience where it wasn't so good with offshore staff specifically. And so in discussion, I find out that there was a point of contact onshore that was working with the offshore team member, and they always had to correct the work, always had to correct the work. And I was like, oh, wow. So how long did this go for? A week or two? No, it went on for about 4.5 months.
Wow.
And so I assumed, right, that's understandable to have that experience. And so what happened with the offshore company, they let them go, but they wanted to try it again because they felt like it could work. The same thing happened, except this time they allowed it to go 2 months. So you're talking 6 months of allowing repeatable behavior, which was beneficial to nobody. Right? And I see that continuously happen in the attitude. If you would have addressed it right then and there, it could be easily understood by both parties, and then you move on and holding everybody accountable. But a lot of times with just the attitude, it doesn't go so well. So
the problem is everybody's
us.
up to here all the time, and probably even up to here, right? So
yeah,
that's one of the issues with the industry.
And so when working with a firm, and what are some of the things that you notice right away that need to be addressed? And is it the same with every firm, or is it different depending on the aspect of what they're doing for their clients?
I think most firm owners that I'm working with are looking to create a scalable model. They want to create a model that runs systematically in a repeatable fashion like clockwork. And the number one thing that I see is people coming to me saying, we need more technology, we need better processes. And oftentimes when I pull back the hood a little bit, that's not really the issue at hand. The first natural instinct is we need more automation, we need more technology that's going to solve all our problems, that's going to make everything else go smoothly. That's just one part of the solution. There's operational matters that need to be attended to. There's capacity issues that need to be attended to. There's more standardization across the business model that need to be attended to. So the first natural instinct is not often the correct instinct. So that's typically what I see with firms coming to me for help.
So now you're working with them. And so when you're providing some insight on how to kind of offload tasks or think about their staff in general, now, do you always go into it wanting them to add additional staff, or are you wanting them to kind of identify better processes or stronger support staff as far as what they're actually capable of doing?
I mean, it obviously depends. Usually what I'm doing is I'm helping focus on the fundamentals of the business first, because it's just a mishmash of different things, the mishmash of different clients, a mishmash of different types of service offers. And it's very hard to scale everything that's different. So we have to have some levels of standardization. So I'm looking at the fundamentals of the business first, who they're targeting, what their service offers look like, what their value proposition is, just getting alignment there. And then often, I'm working typically with smaller firms. So let's say under $1 million. But often like the owner or the partner is just totally overloaded and taking up, all sorts of client work on their shoulders, which is something that just can't happen if you're looking to grow your business. So certainly looking at capacity is the next thing, because I often hear, who do I hire next? When do I hire this person? What should I take off my plate? And it all comes down to capacity. Capacity planning is the key to everything, yet very few firms engage in it. Your capacity is your scarcest resource. We need to protect that resource and then manage it. And that's not happening at most firms.
Yeah, so I noticed the same thing where clients are coming into meetings, and they have needs across all the board, and they just want audit and tax and accounting and bookkeepers, and heck, throw in some admin support staff. And then they go about it in a way of starting across everywhere, and they've never done this before. And so, just like you're saying, you got to streamline it. And I'd say identify the most pressing need, and you start there.
Yep.
Right. And then it'll be so much easier to realize, okay, so when you hire in general, there's onboarding, you got to work everything out. But then you'll realize, wait a second, you may not need these associates in different departments because they're cross-trained and they can assist. Right. And so, yeah, if you're all scattered and everything's not organized, then it could get really messy. So I always say, just pinpoint what's your most pressing need, and you build from there. Right. And then it's always a combination where identify the strengths of the onshore team and identify the strengths of trying to build out an offshore team.
Yeah, I would certainly agree with that.
So I know you don't have much experience working with offshore staff, but in how you've the model that you're in, and us being remote workers, what are your thoughts on this going forward, this whole concept, and how it can help today's accounting firms?
So I started my firm in 2013, sold it in 2018, and certainly offshoring has only picked up steam since then. And it was something near the tail end of when I was leaving my firm that I started looking into a little bit more seriously. And I have no doubt that I would probably have had some kind of an offshore team in my firm if I was running one today. So I have a virtual assistant currently with Future Firm. She's offshore. So I'll probably be building out more resources offshore specifically for my Future Firm company. So I feel very good about it. We're utilizing resources in different parts of the world. It's very hard to find those resources. One of my biggest challenges when I was running a firm was finding people. And it's been like that forever. So why don't we widen the pool of people? When I started my firm, one of the benefits, because I was a virtual model early on in that space, is I was able to hire people across the country. So that was a big win, but that gap is now narrowed because everybody's working like that now. And that was a huge selling point before about like even hiring team members from in a remote fashion. Now that's not a selling point anymore. So we need to just maintain our competitiveness. And I think offshoring is one of those ways that you can do so.
Yeah. No, spot on. I always, when I went into this position myself 4 years ago, I specifically went into it because I wanted to work remote. And then I realized after some interviews that my office is pretty far. It's in India. We're headquartered here in America, but the day-to-day interactions would be myself and a computer and all the technology out there. And it wasn't easy. I thought I could get everything up and running in a few weeks. No, it took about 6-7 months to really hone in and realize discipline, structure, how to separate breaks, designing a workspace, all that. And so are you seeing a lot of firms have a hybrid office, or they are all back in the office, or they've gone remote? And how do you feel how comfortable they are in working in that type of environment?
So most of the firms, so I have some personal experience there, because when I started my firm, I was an in-person firm, only working with clients virtually, but the team was centralized in an office. then moved to a hybrid model, which I found to be the most difficult type of model in my personal view, because you're managing different cultures, I guess. I preferred the fully remote model the most, which my firm moved towards, in the last few years that I was running my firm. Most of the firms that I'm working with, I would consider them modern firms. So they're mostly online firms from the get-go. And they're comfortable working in that manner. And I kind of take that for granted, truthfully, and I might be in a bit of a bubble there. But I've had some firms that I've coached that have had to move during COVID to a more remote model. Some of them are moving more back to an office. Honestly, I'm more of a virtual guy, but I don't want to dictate anything to anyone, because I think any of those approaches can work well, but you need to have the structure, as you mentioned, because the chances are you're probably going to have some people working remotely, and there has to be a structure to it. It has to be intentionally done to keep the team and culture together. Mm-hmm. So any of those approaches can work, but very likely you're probably going to have some kind of hybrid approach moving forward at the very least.
And no matter what, whether you're onshore in an office, onshore remote, offshore remote, it's always about one team, right? One cohesive working unit. And I've seen it happen to where it becomes like a battle. It's like the offshore versus the onshore team. It's not going to work, right? And so there always has to be buy-in and mindset from everybody, whether your firm has one partner, two partners, or it has 20 partners.
I fully agree. Yeah, a team has to be completely on the same page. It's not about just shipping work somewhere and some kind of silo. Like, team has to be part of the culture.
Yeah, for sure. And that's difficult. It's really difficult. It's simply because my experience starting working remote, I was very confident. I was all gung-ho, and I was like, what the heck do I do? and so, yes, there's hesitations. There's going to be hiccups. There's going to be, I hate using failures, but failure is always going to lead to success. And I feel that word change, right? It's just like frightening. And change is constant. Even when I work with a firm, they say, I've been doing this for 30 years, the same way, but yet we're on a call, so something happened. Something's about to change. And even at that point, the attitude is like, I guess I have to change, but it should be like, well, I want to see what options are. And so I'm a strong believer to have the right mindset going into whether you're restructuring your firm, or whether you're hiring, just your everyday aspect and working with your team.
Yeah, I agree with you there, Chris.
All right. So the last few things, Brian, any final thoughts for our audience out there today as far as where they stand now and how they can, become that future firm?
Yeah. So at the end of the day, what's helped me along, at least, is just being really focused on, what I help firms with is not necessarily create the biggest business in the world, but create a business that they love, and really focus on your personal goals and making sure that your business is in line with those personal goals. Because again, we start a business, we run a firm with the idea of improving our life, making our life better. And what we often see in the industry, as I mentioned earlier on, is overwork, lots of stress, and crazy busy seasons. And this is not why we got into business in the first place. So we have to understand what we really want out of life. A lot of people don't take that step back. Certainly that was me. I started a business. I just got into my firm and I just started growing it without even thinking about the end goal. But we have to be very clear about what we really want out of life, and then reverse engineer a plan to help us get there. And our business should be part of that plan. So yeah, I know it's a very broad piece of advice, but that's one thing that kind of helps me through running my businesses.
No, I agree. If you're always running around and trying to just see, the whole throw a bunch of darts, see what sticks, whatever that cliche saying is, it's just not going to work. And you really have to dig down and find what your passion is, what you want to do, what you want to do for your team, what you want to do for your clients. And once you have that in place, everything else will grow. But it's always about a mindset and attitude, and everyone will be fine. So, well, Ryan, thanks a lot for joining today. Appreciate your insight here, and we will talk soon.
Thank you very much, Chris. I appreciate it.